What up everyone, it's your man Xman87 here, bringing you another Marvel Legends video. And what I have for you today, I'll be ranking my top 10 favorite Marvel Legends Wolverine figures. But before we get into everything, if you could please leave a thumbs up, like rating on the video, it'll help show your support for my channel and I greatly appreciate it. So I think I have a pretty fun video set up for you guys here. In commemoration of Wolverine's 50th anniversary, I decided to compile a list of my favorite Marvel Legends Wolverine figures. Just to let you know how I'm doing this, I did set some rules for myself on this list so it doesn't go overboard. It's just going to be Hasbro Wolverine figures, no Toy Biz. It's not going to include the new 50th anniversary Wolverine 2-packs as I'm going off of what was released before that. I mainly wanted to do comics, but there is one movie figure that made it on my list. You know, we got a lot of tiger striped versions of Wolverines, just with different heads or deco, but I had to pick only one as I didn't want like 4 of them being on this list of 10. So the Wolverine figures you see here did not make my list. This is just for my thumbnail because, come on, you know I can't spoil my entire list for you guys on the thumbnail. These aren't honorable mentions either, except for one. Therefore, I will say that since this first appearance Wolverine is the original tiger striped costume one, he almost came close to the tiger striped one I chose overall to make it on my list. I just love this one as this is the look he was first introduced. So I know there's a lot of attachments towards this one. That head sculpt is just flawless in my opinion. So my one honorable mention goes to this one. Also guys, just note that this is just ranking my favorite Wolverine figures. This title is not ranking the best Wolverine figures. If I did the best, that's just way too difficult and very subjective. So this is just for a fun topic of discussion, not to be taken seriously. I'm just going off of which ones I like the most, the ones I had the most fun with, and which ones mean the most to me, whether it stems from multiple areas of the hobby like photography, displaying, hunting, nostalgia, etc., etc. I love Wolverine. He's my favorite X-Men member, and to me, he's got the best body book made in Legends, and I'm that guy that buys every Marvel Legends Wolverine figure because that's how much love I have for the character. This will be one half of a commemorative video for the 50th anniversary of Wolverine. My other list will be the top Wolverine costumes that I want to see which haven't been made yet in Legends, so stay tuned for that. Now with that said, let's begin the countdown starting with number 10. Kicking things off at the number 10 spot, we have X-23 as Wolverine. So I've been a fan of this costume and iteration since day one. I've loved the X-23 character since her initial debut back in X-Men Evolution, the animated series from 2003. Then debuted later in the comics, just like the Harley Quinn route from Batman the Animated Series. She was set up to be the female version of Wolverine, which is why I never bought into the whole woke agenda of female characters replacing the men when she actually took up the mantle. That's always been a played out concept in the comics from the beginning. Superman, Supergirl, Batman, Batgirl, Hulk, She-Hulk, Spider-Man, Spider-Girl, and the list goes on and on. Anyways, this figure is great and was released in an X-Men spin-off wave, that being the Deadpool Wave 2 Sauron Build-A-Figure series, which was a good spot for a character like this. I think she is one of their best looking female figures made. I love her paint job. The blue and yellow colors pop so well. That mask is one of their best looking Wolverine head sculpts. Even better looking than some of the masks they did on Logan. The windswept hair adds some attitude. Needs a growling head. However, the alternate head we get is unmasked, and that Laura Kinney likeness is spot on. Who else here is wishing for a classic X-23 updated version besides me? I wasn't completely satisfied with the Toy Biz one, and I think Hasbro could kill it if they make a new agile female teen body with a double diaphragm joint. Articulation is one thing these teen female bodies lack, and hopefully they make a vicious growling looking portrait for her. Not many female figures that have that kind of animated expression. She would be perfect to anchor an X-Men Evolution wave if they decide to go that route. Comic will be more than fine. The hands and feet claws were done nicely, although I do wish the feet claws were able to be hidden for a retracted look. You can pop them off, but you'll have this huge gaping hole between her toes. 3 suitable options they could do for the next X-23 they make, and you let me know which is the best approach. 1, give us something to close the gap. 2, the flip over method that Toy Biz used. Just worried that can cause some imbalances trying to stand her. Or 3, swappable feet. That way you don't have to worry about seeing her claws under the feet from the flip over method. Anyways, I think this figure is dope and one of my main characters on my A-Force display. Number 9, Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. I know there's a lot of hate for the AoA designs, but I grew up in the 90s, so I won't apologize for loving AoA. As a kid, that had so many striking visual panels that inspired me to draw. I just think this is a cool Wolverine design. I know he was a peg warmer for a bit, but I'm not basing my list off of peg warmers. I can separate that. It doesn't have to be popular in order for me to like it. As long as the figure is cool to me, that's what matters. Like that new Mafix one coming out. Oh, that looks sick. In my personal opinion, it's just a sick design with the one claw, war paint on his face. Makes him look badass, and I love the story of him losing his hand getting blasted from Cyclops' optic blast, which made him lose his eye in turn. The figure doesn't have the best Logan face, but at the time, it was definitely one of their better ones, and honestly, it isn't that bad. It's the crazy hair that makes it that much better for me. They nailed it. I love the swappable option to give him claws on his missing hand. Wish they painted it in a metallic silver deco to give it some more pop, but other than that, the paint work is pretty crisp, at least on mine. An alternate stoic head would have been a nice addition, but overall, this is a fun Wolverine figure to mess around with, and he just pops on my AoA display. Number 8, the Ultimate Rider's Logan with his bike. I know, you're probably thinking, Manny, you got the wrong one on the bike. You're right, because it originally has the white tank top, but I couldn't find that figure on my endless bin search, so I gave up. But since it's the same body, just repainted with different heads, they painted the chest hairs on the black tank top. But going over both come with the same hands to hold the bike, or in this case, the black tank top holds the Muramasa blade, which they corrected the color to red from the black one that came with the Retro Series Madripoor Wolverine. Speaking of Madripoor Wolverine, this figure you see here also came with that head, but without the face paint. And this cowboy hat one got that little Logan cocky smirk on, but I can't help to think that it looks like Gizmo from the Gremlins. The 2 new cowboy hat heads that come with the new Logan vs. Sabretooth 2-pack are for sure superior than this one. The heads on the white tank top that originally came with the bike weren't that great. The patch head was okay, but now that we got a better patch head that comes with the Joe Fixit 2-pack, that'll be the one to sport on display. The bike was the main seller because at the time, Hasbro was finally starting to roll out vehicles for their Legends line, and having a 1/12 scale bike was something we've been clamoring for in the fan base. So their Ultimate Rider series gave us some extra spark needed in the line. Vehicles are always something fun to have with your 6-inch figures, especially when you can share it and pair it with characters who can benefit from them, like how this bike can go perfectly with Orb, just as an example. It's got some really nice metallic blue paint and some good looking details all over the bike. I like to see the Ultimate Rider series return in a new way. There's still so much to explore there, but Logan on his bike is so fitting for the character, and it just adds to his already badass persona. Number 7, Old Man Logan. One of the greatest comic books of all time, definitely needed to be celebrated in Legends form. The first Old Man Logan figure came from the X-Men Wave Warlock Build-A-Figure series, which didn't have any accessories and had the shorter jacket. Anyways, this updated version came in a 2-pack with Old Man Hawkeye, but even though it's the same base body, he just looks way better in the longer duster. They gave us a lot of extra goodies this time around to accessorize him some more. Alternate hands, alternate head with the hat, and a baby Hulk, which is a super important character accessory, and you'd know this if you read the comic. A lot more details on this figure's face, and the duster having some nice weathering for some additional highlights. Overall, this figure has so much more fun factor than the last, and it is the much better Old Man Logan figure to go with in my collection. Number 6, X-Force Wolverine. I want to start off by saying that I love this X-Force team, and I love this Wolverine costume. It's one of his best costumes ever. I had this one higher on my list, but for some reason it kept trickling down. That particular reason came down to accessories. Absolutely nothing to play around with. Not even fists without the claws. Sure, you can find the set of hands for him to display him without the claws, but still, I have to judge how it is as stock. No all heads either for different expressions, so the accessory department let me down big time here. The figure itself is still awesome looking, and it is the first Wolverine figure to feature a new style of claws that just looks like Andy Kubert's style of claws. They are so much thicker and stay in place by not shifting out of place like most of the previous claws did. The boots and gloves were newly sculpted to give them the proper aesthetics. Hopefully they update this one to give us more accessories and pinless, because those gray pins on the inner legs are an eyesore. Still one of the best Wolverine figures, and one I love seeing on my black and gray X-Force team display. Number 5, X-Men 275 Wolverine. Our first ever comic pinless Wolverine. This one deserves a lot of love and praise. Don't fix what's not broken. They still kept true to the Wolverine buck, only making the aesthetic smoother with the pinless arms and legs. Then, like the other X-Men 275 bodies, the straps are keyed into the sculpt, which just blends the uniform all together. Another factor that played a big role into ranking this higher for me is that the 275 team is completed, so team completions will always win huge brownie points. Probably the main thing for me is that this is the best Logan head sculpt they've ever put out. I've been super critical about them yet having to nail a perfect unmasked Logan comic head sculpt, and I feel this is perfect or very close to. I think the digital face print tech had a lot to do with helping them achieve that a little bit behind the sculpture. 2 heads and all hands is acceptable for Wolverine. Just wish they gave him sturdier claws that are not so flimsy. It's great to have our first comic pinless Wolverine figure with the best Legends Logan portraits. The 275 blue and yellow team is a dream team for me to complete, and I'm happy to be able to do that for my Legends collection. Number 4, Weapon X Wolverine. Wolverine's origin story is so important to X-Men lore and Marvel lore in general. I'm super attached to that story being one of my favorite origin stories of all time, witnessing the birth of a legend. I know you guys are gonna ask me where I got this chamber, but if you grew up in the 90s, you know. It's the Toy Biz Weapon X chamber, but just painted. And I know you've probably heard me say that this was the most fun I ever had photographing a Wolverine figure. Or just a figure in general. I played out a scenario inspired from the Hulk vs. Wolverine animated movie, and let me just take this time to walk you through that quickly, because I rarely ever get a chance to do commentary over the photos I take. The first pic you see here is with that Toy Biz chamber again, but I wanted to present him locked up inside, and I put a little bubbly water cutout and sprayed some water on the pot to give it that illusion of being submerged in water. Got him posed as if he's floating with the help of a flight stand. The second pick got the DC Collectibles Arkham Origins Harley Quinzel figure serving as a scientist, evaluating the progress of Weapon X. Hit some blue and green light on both sides of the diorama to heighten the drama. Always good to add some drama in your photos, so lighting is key in photography. Just love everything about setting this photo up. My favorite pick of the bunch. Pick number 3, I have him breaking out of the chamber. I used some Tamashii Nations water effects to sell that. He's bursting out of it, and I also used some blue film as filler. Looking back at it, I made a huge mistake not adding clear plastic cutouts to mimic glass and sell more of the breakout. I shot this back in 2019, so I've learned from my mistakes. I used a bullseye head on a suited body with a lab coat over it to substitute as the Professor. The 2 Demolition Man customs that I made to use as Weapon X guards. The background props I used were the Toy Biz Legends Weapon X chamber mini. Yeah, it had that like little mini chamber pod, as I wanted to throw that in to pay homage to that Marvel Legends Toy Biz Weapon X figure. The other console you see was a Mattel's, was the 60s Batman back computer, I believe, and I softened up the lighting in the background just a little bit. Pick 4, I have him cutting off the prof's hand. I love that scene from the animated movie. I used the cutout to sell the noise. The blood effects was from the Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat Noob Saibot figure, and I used some sticky tack to hold that together. I should have shifted Wolverine's body just a little bit more, but I wanted to showcase that it doesn't take him a lot of effort to amputate someone with his claws. I want it to look as easy as a knife through butter. Pick 5, I just have him lunging at the guards at his attempt to escape the Weapon X facility, and with the support of a thin flight stand, I was able to contain this shot nicely behind the camera. I think the blood effects were from one of the NECA Gears of War figures. Pick 6 is what I call the escape. He's out the Weapon X facility and outside the cold, snowy mountains of Canada. The running pose was easy to balance with this figure. There are real sticks you see used as trees for this snowy landscape diorama. The ice blocky base behind him came from the Star Wars Black Series figures of Rey and Kylo Ren. If you bought those figures, you can combine the base together to have them fight each other. Love that scene from the movie. Then with a black background and a fog machine, I was able to get that cold night vibe I wanted. First time I used the fog machine, and that was really fun to use. Pick 7, I have him without the helmet as he just took it off and is just angry with what happened to him. Looks like he's warming up under a campfire, and I love how that lighting just bounces off of him and adds more life to his facial expression. You can see the silhouette of his claws on his face, which looks so badass. This unmasked face wasn't the best, but when you play around with the lighting, you can make it look fierce. By the way, the base I used was from the Black Series statue line they had, and it was from the Force Awakens Rey base. Again, I love that scene from the movie, so I figured since the base lights up, I can use this for some good photography. It paid off. Wish I put a little more focus on his face. Looks a little blurred out to me, so I hate when I make that mistake, but I'm happy with the rest of the presentation. Pick 8 was just wanting to show that his escape continued until the morning, which is why I have a bright setting to capture a bright and weathered snowy day. You can see the face isn't all that. I liked it at the time because there wasn't that many good Logan heads out, and this was one of the better ones. But now looking back at it, they just need to sculpt extra features to make it look like he's yelling angrily. It just looks like he's opening his mouth for the dentist and not the vicious raging kind he should have from being in excruciating pain and putting everyone through a berserker barrage. I love the crazy hair, and the blue shaded highlights on it gives it that comic book visual. Pick 8, pick 9, I don't know. The last pick, I lost track of them now. It's just a variant shot from the last photo with the helmet on. Always good to shoot variants for B shots. So you can see how much love I poured into these photos as I enjoyed this figure so much. Besides some minor gripes I have with the alt head, the helmet looks so damn cool. And I do wish we had another helmeted head with an angry expression underneath. Some weathered paint apps would have been nice if it were applied on the metal parts. You do get paint on some of the buttons and screens on the control panels, on his visor, and also his body hairs. The layering on this figure gives it the proper aesthetics. The red translucent tubes wired around him, the harness, wrists, and belt straps, control boxes. Only Wolverine can make a naked figure look so cool. This is just one of my favorite Wolverines in my collection. I have him on my Deadpool shelf where I have some Weapon X themed characters on display. Number 3, the movie Logan figure. Arguably the greatest X-Men movie from the Foxmen days. I was happy to see a figure made for the film as a PulseCon exclusive 2-pack with Charles Xavier back in 2020. But this right here is a real special one for me. So special that it was a monumental moment for the X-Men 87 branding. This was the figure I had the pleasure of doing my first ever product shots for Hasbro to promote their PulseCon exclusives. I'll share some of those photos with you on screen. I was thankful for that opportunity, and I owe a big thank you to Hasbro, especially a major thank you to Ryan Ting for making this happen. Hasbro even interviewed me, and that full interview is on the Hasbro Pulse website covering this, and also doing product shots for their flight stands. So if you want to check it out, link will be in the description below. That was at a time when I used to be called a shill. I know I've given the line some shit these past couple of years, but hey, I gotta be honest with my viewers, and I always wanted to do some product shots, and I couldn't turn that down. It was fun to get paid for doing what I love. If the opportunity ever arose again, which I doubt they will, I'd still jump on it. So that experience trumps all from this list. You have two tremendous head sculpts with such stellar likeness of Hugh Jackman, looking all rugged and battered and bloody to show his pain. Anyone else hearing Johnny Cash's Hurt song playing in their head right now? They even painted the stubbles on his neck to complement his facial hair on both heads. The introductory of newly sculpted buffed arms and torso for the suits to have muscle-suited bodies in the line. Couple of alt hands for play. His default hands help roll Charles Xavier's wheelchair, a set of newly sculpted clean claws, and best of all, for the first time ever in the line, bloody freaking claws. And man, oh man, the claws from this figure makes all my other Wolverine claws feel inadequate. These are my favorite pair of Wolverine claws they've ever made. I swapped these around with a few of my other Wolverine figures, and it gives it a lot more brutality. Bloody claws with bloodied and battered heads. This was when Marvel Legends got real edgy and tested the boundaries. Just two gripes I have, and that's the neck gap on the back of the figure. It exposes the ball peg way too much, and it hurts the aesthetics in that area. Then secondly, this should have been a 2-pack with X-23 instead of Charles. At least a 3-pack to add her in. She was the key to the plot. Anyways, this is the only Wolverine movie figure I have on here. Like I said, I wanted to only include one, and I feel this is the best one of them all. If I had to sell all of my movie figures and could only keep one, this is the one I'd keep for myself because of sentimental value. Number 2, Outback Wolverine. To many, this is their definitive Wolverine over the blue and yellow tiger striped. Can't blame you if it is. I have a huge attachment to this one, especially since my first Wolverine toy as a kid was the 90s Toy Biz Outback Wolverine figure. Now, when Marvel Legends came out with the X-Men Wave Juggernaut Build-A-Figure series in 2016, it was a hit throughout the community. We were thirsty for another X-Men BAF wave, with the last one being the Jubilee BAF wave in 2014. An absent year in 2015 started some rumblings that said Hasbro couldn't make X-Men figures anymore because Fox owned the movie rights. Y'all remember that? That same year at San Diego Comic-Con, Hasbro put that to rest and said, nah. Here's the Juggernaut wave, and what a juggernaut of a wave it was, pun intended. This is why it was so high on my list, because after a great 2015 year with waves such as the Odin Build-A-Figure series, Pizza Spidey wave, etc., 2016 topped all that. That was the year that Hasbro tapped into their full potential of the line with this wave, and an amazing 2016 to follow the rest of the year. Take a look at this lineup for a second. Heavy hitter name after heavy hitter name. Then Kitty with the Onslaught bonus head to put on the BAF. It's like we had two BAFs in this wave. That Deadpool was super popular too. They don't make strong wave lineups like this anymore. Everyone was buzzing for this wave, even a year after release. I don't know anyone who didn't complete this wave, and I don't know anyone who missed out on this Wolverine at the time. He was the perfect figure. The introductory of this new Wolverine buck, the best Legends figure of 2016 in my opinion. The articulation and poses you can get him into felt like an endless amount of fun. I love this orange and brown Outback costume, and I don't like the color brown on costumes, uniforms, clothing, but on characters like Wolverine and Sabretooth, it just looks so good, and it's probably because of their ferocious personalities that makes it work for me. Would have been nice to have an alternate head, but later in 2017, they released another Outback Wolverine. No alt hands, but an alt head and a folded down cowl this time around. That one had additional paint deco with the arm hairs being painted on, as the Juggernaut Wave one had no hair on his arms at all. That was their only mistake with this one. By the way, the claws you see on this one are not the stock claws. They looked really dull, so I swapped it with the 2012 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive X-Force 3-pack Wolverine, and that one had chrome claws. And it looks so much better, and I love chrome. That's just the 80s and 90s toy kid in me, man. And it's not even that expensive to make. They did it before, obviously. And this is how his claws should look. They should be very reflective. Anyways, the 80s X-Men ruled, and the Outback team is so close to completion, and when it is completed, collectors will be on the pursuit aggressively on the aftermarket if an update is not released. I have a feeling they'll update it, pinless and all that. Regardless, this Wolverine is going to look so much sweeter when that team is completed on my shelf. And at the number 1 spot, it is the X-Men 97 Wolverine. Alright, it all comes down to this for me. If I had to pick only one Wolverine figure to own to be my definitive Wolverine figure in my collection, then it would be this one. The 90s tiger striped costume is my definitive Wolverine. Now I know there are some other good 90s tiger striped options, but I wanted to tell you why I chose this over the others. The Apocalypse Bathwave was too orangey for my taste, even though it had a very nice blue. The Love Triangle 3-pack was amazing with the correct yellow, the accessory options like the battle damaged head, the comic bone claws, let's not forget that. But the blue was too dark for me. I had to swap the Apocalypse Wave shoulder pauldrons onto it in order for the blue to pop more. Let's not even talk about the VHS animated one with the horrible cell shading. The only one that came close to being my number 1 was that first appearance I showed earlier as an honorable mention. That is the OG Tiger Stripe suit, and I think that has the best growling expression under the cowl, and the whiskers make it even more expressive. But this is the cowl I love more. When you think of Wolverine's mask, this is the first thing you think of. The splayed out ears, I guess you want to call them, the little facial hair stubbles, the all white pupils. I just wished he had a growling expression too. Better yet, a yelling one under the cowl. We only got a yelling one with the Love Triangle battle damaged head. The unmasked animated head I think is their best Logan head besides the 275 one. It's a tie for me between those two. Also, while the blue isn't as vibrant as the show, this blue matches more of the OG first appearance, so if you wanted these claws on the OG Tiger Striped one, then it's passable. I love these claws. Not the sturdiest, which is a downer, but I feel they got the shape right. They just need to paint them in metallic silver. Adamantium is a shiny alloy, and they just make it look so plain. I know I said it a lot already, but it needs to pop. The claws still draw me in visually because it is a nice sculpt. You know, the one trend I hate the most on Wolverine figures is sculpted arm hairs because it's the biggest eyesore, as it just looks like sculpted fur. Painting the hairs without the sculpt is all that's needed. Less is more. Put that sculpt budget into something that would be more useful on the figure to make it greater. Another important thing to point out is this is our first pinless Wolverine in this costume. His aesthetics never looked better. The only thing needed to enhance the Wolverine buck is a double diaphragm joint to get that torso to pivot off to the side, and toe joints too. He's a character that needs that joint with his wild stances. Maybe a double ball peg at the neck for more range there, but let's see how far they are willing to go for those kind of advancements on this buck. This figure's just so good to look at, and even though it's based off the animated series, this figure's going to serve as both, whether you want to put him with your comic or your animation display. It's the same costume, so this Wolverine has already replaced my comic one on display, and that's a big deal. Fans of the line say that this is the best Legends Wolverine. I can't find a reason why it's not. Like I said, if it replaced my comic version on display, then that says something. Again, out of all these Wolverine figures on my list, if I only had to choose one to own, then this would be the one. Now I kick it back to you. What are your favorite Marvel Legends Wolverine figures ever made? Which would be your number 1? Also, which Marvel Legends Wolverine figures coming out that you are most excited for? Comment below, let me know, we'll chat about it. Thanks for watching another Marvel Legends video. Please follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at xman87. Hit the notification bell so you always know when my latest videos are up. Share and subscribe if you're new. See you on the next video. Peace, peace.